In late December 2025, 34-year-old Alex Brener posted an 11-second video on Reddit. The caption consisted of 5 words: "Filming a thunderstorm. What is this?" A few days later, the video disappeared. 2 weeks later, Alex himself disappeared. His account was deleted, and the social security number belonged to someone else. Alex Brener lived in San Bernardino, not in the part of town with the tourist routes and shopping malls, but in a quiet, one-story neighborhood northwest of downtown, where houses are built close to the slopes of the San Bernardino Mountains, and in winter, you can see the snow caps on the peaks from your balconies. He rented a 2-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor of a small complex on North Arrowhead Avenue, a yellowish building with a wrought iron grille at the entrance, parking for 8 cars, and a lawn with withered grass that hadn't been watered since October. An ordinary place. There are hundreds of them in San Bernardino. He was 34 years old. I worked as a system administrator in a small logistics company. I supported servers, repaired networks, and sometimes traveled to clients. He is not married and has no children, although a woman has occasionally appeared on his social media. Judging by their photos together, they dated for about 2 years and then broke up without any apparent scandal. He drove a dark blue Honda Civic from 2019, which he called a blue bucket in his correspondence, with respect, not disdain. He loved hiking, going on routes in the mountains on weekends, sometimes alone, sometimes with friends. On Fridays, I played board games at a friend's house. He lived a few blocks away and had a collection of several hundred. He joined Reddit 7 years ago. Main activity: tech subreddits, local San Bernardino news, a little r/camping and hiking. The correspondence style is characteristic. Short, ironic phrases, specific abbreviations like "what the hell," "no, seriously," and sometimes technical jargon. He wasn't a regular on UFO forums. Until December 2025, he hadn't published anything related to UFOs, conspiracy theories, or paranormal phenomena. Exactly 0 posts on this topic in 7 years. This is important. November 2025 turned out to be unusual in Southern California. Atmospheric rivers, a synoptic term for powerful currents of moist air from the Pacific Ocean, covered the region one after another. They bring colossal amounts of precipitation, prolonged torrential rains, flooding in lowlands, early snow on mountain peaks, but no thunderstorms. This is crucial. Meteorologists commenting on that November night later noted the same thing in several places. During a cyclone of this type, there should not be electrical discharges over the San Bernardino Mountains. Atmospheric conditions simply didn't allow for the necessary temperature gradient. Nevertheless, there was a thunderstorm, a strong one, with several waves of lightning. Someone in the comments to Alex's thread wrote that night, local forecasters recorded air ionization levels over the mountain range that were many times higher than normal for this type of cyclone. This observation was not followed up at the time. Everyone was focused on the video itself. Local residents went out onto their balconies to film lightning, an unusual, almost exotic sight. And on that night, also meteorologically inexplicable. One such evening, presumably in mid-November, Alex went out onto the balcony with his phone, a Samsung Galaxy S24. He was filming the approaching storm. In his own words, written later on a forum, he wanted to catch some pretty lightning for the wallpaper. It was late, around 10 in the evening, dark. The wind was picking up, and the trees outside were swaying. The view from his apartment balcony was northwest, toward the mountains, over which the bulk of the clouds were moving. He filmed for several minutes, holding the phone with both hands. Then he went home. He rewatched the footage only the next day. He described what he saw the first time. "I played the footage back at normal speed and thought there was nothing there but rain. Then one flash of lightning, and there's something in the frame. I paused it. I watched it 10 times. It's not a bird. It's not a plane. It's not a drone." According to Alex, he spent several hours with this recording, enlarging the fragment, watching it frame by frame, comparing it with other parts of the video. The object was visible exactly at the moment of the lightning discharge. The flash lasted a fraction of a second, and in this light, at a height which he estimated to be about several hundred meters above the mountain ridge, the shape was clearly visible. Disc-shaped, symmetrical, with rounded edges and a characteristic thickening in the center. No navigation lights, no tail trail, no details typical of known aircraft. He posted nothing for several weeks. He later said he was hesitant. He didn't want to look like someone spreading yet another fake story about plates. He showed the recording to a friend, the one he played board games with. According to Alex, the man bulged his eyes and said it was definitely not a plane. He never showed the video to anyone else. It sat on his phone for over a month. On December 28, 2025, Alex Brener posted a video to the r/UFOs subreddit on Reddit. He captioned the video, "Filming a thunderstorm. What is this?" No comments, no description, no backstory. Just a question. The reaction was immediate. In the first few hours, the post had several thousand views. By the next morning, tens of thousands. /UFOs was one of the largest subreddits on this topic at the time, with over 4 million subscribers. The post immediately shot to the top. Comments were split roughly evenly, with some insisting that it was a video compression artifact combined with a halo effect from lightning, while others believed that the shape of the object was too perfect to be explained by optical distortion. There were also those who pointed out that the object does not move in sync with the clouds, does not have a firing point typical of a drone, and is located at an altitude that excludes a small consumer-grade drone. On the third day after publication, people appeared in the thread introducing themselves as independent content verifiers. By that time, they already had material to work with. In the very first comment to his post, Alex left a link to Google Drive, an uncompressed original file in .mp4 downloaded directly from the Galaxy S24 without any processing. This file, not the recompressed version from Reddit, was downloaded and analyzed by specialists. Two of them, one calling himself a digital forensics specialist, the other a media verification analyst from an academic background, published detailed technical reports. They worked with the original file metadata, analyzed the noise patterns of the camera sensor, the pixel structure of the object, and its behavior at the moment of flash illumination. The first conclusion: no signs of AI generation, CGI, or editing intervention were detected. The object has been present in the original data stream since recording. The second, more cautious conclusion: I cannot identify the object, but I can confirm that it is not a post-processing artifact. This was the turning point. After these conclusions were published, interest in the video skyrocketed. The post began to be shared on other subreddits, then on Twitter and Telegram. The videos were downloaded and uploaded to mirror sites, YouTube channels dedicated to anomalies, several UFO sites, and personal accounts of enthusiasts. By the end of the fourth day, dozens of copies of the video existed across the internet. It seemed impossible to remove it from public access. It seemed so. On December 31st, New Year's Eve, Alex wrote a short update in the thread. He stated that he hadn't deleted anything himself, neither the original post nor any copies, but for several hours now, he's noticed that the YouTube mirror sites are disappearing one after another. Moderators on some forums have been deleting reposts without explanation. Several users who tried to re-upload the video reported being automatically blocked. The content detection system recognized the file and prevented it from being published, even though the video did not contain any obvious violation of the rules. Alex wrote, "I don't understand what's going on. I didn't do anything." And then he added something else. He wrote that for several days in a row, when he leaves the entrance to North Arrowhead Avenue, he sees a black SUV on the sidewalk opposite. He described it as an all-black Chevrolet Suburban or something similar. No stickers, no commercial plates. The engine was off. The windows are tinted inside, but when the light hits the right angle, silhouettes are visible. The car sits in one place for several hours. Sometimes it's gone in the morning, but it's back in the evening. Maybe it's a coincidence, he wrote, but I've been noticing her for 4 days now. A user with the nickname Federal Ghost 1988 responded to this message. The account was registered several years ago. Activity is sporadic, but the profile contained several comments and discussions concerning surveillance and the work of intelligence agencies. He wrote 2 words to Alex: "This is their car," and added 3 more: "They're watching for now." No one asked him what "for now" meant. Neither Alex nor any other users. Maybe no one dared. Maybe everyone understood. In the first days of January 2026, Alex continued to contact. He described what he saw. A black Suburban, he was sure by then that it was a Suburban, showed up in the parking lot of his job. The logistics company where he worked was located in an industrial area east of downtown, in a building with no sign, with a small parking lot for a dozen cars. The Suburban was parked at the far end, the engine off, no one getting out. Then, at the Stater Brothers supermarket on Baseline Street, where Alex usually did his weekly grocery shopping. Then, in the planetarium parking lot, where he went on Sunday, just for a change of scenery. In each case, the same car, or at least a car indistinguishable from the first, not moving, away from other cars, with the engine off. "I filmed it on my phone," Alex wrote on January 6th. "I want to keep the evidence." This was his last message with specific details. For the next 2 days, he wrote briefly. "Same old so far. The car is there again. Tired." The tone changed. Not panic, but something that people who followed his messages described as exhaling. As if he'd stopped fighting something he didn't understand and was simply waiting. On January 8th, he wrote, "Today the car was parked right under the balcony, all night." On January 9th, he wrote nothing. On the 10th, too. On the 11th day of silence, several users messaged him privately. There were no responses. On January 12th, someone noticed that Alex's Reddit account had disappeared. Not banned, not restricted, just gone. Complete deletion, as happens when the user clicks the delete account button themselves. Everything. Post history, comments, personal correspondence, everything disappeared along with the account. The thread, which had garnered thousands of comments and continued to be actively discussed, now looked strange. The first post was from a deleted user. The video was unavailable, and the original author had disappeared, but the screenshots had already spread. People saved them on personal devices, in cloud storage, and in private chats. This was the only form in which this story existed. Fragments, disjointed pieces of correspondence that could not be verified, but also could not be completely refuted. On January 14th, the account returned. This, in itself, is strange. Deleted Reddit accounts are not restored on their own. To do so, you must either contact support or create a new account with the same name. But there was no trace of any correspondence with support in the public group. The username was the same, an exact match, not a similar nickname. One message was received from it. It was long, several paragraphs. Alex wrote that everything that happened was a deliberate experiment, that he had long been interested in social psychology and wanted to test how the internet community reacts to a viral UFO story, that the video is not a falsification in the classical sense, but merely an artifact. A specific atmospheric phenomenon at the moment of the lightning discharge created an optical glitch on the camera matrix, the shape of which accidentally resembles a disc-shaped object, that there was no SUV. He made it up to strengthen the narrative. That he disappeared on purpose to see how people would react. That he now confesses to everything. The message was written correctly, consistently, without spelling errors. Correct punctuation, correct conjunctions. Not a single abbreviation, not a single characteristic turn of phrase, not a single ironic remark. People who had been communicating with Alex for several weeks read this message and began writing responses. Not aggressive, but rather probing. One user, who had communicated with Alex privately several times, wrote him a question, the answer to which only the real Alex could know. A detail mentioned in private correspondence and never published publicly. There was no response. Another user wrote a joke, a reference to a conversation he had with Alex a few days earlier. A joke that only someone who was part of that conversation could understand. There was no response. A third user wrote directly, "Alex, name your friend you play board games with." There was no response. The account showed no further activity. Not a single new post, not a single comment, not a single answer to any of the questions, even though there were many, and some of them were simple. The confession message remained the only one. Federal Ghost 1988, the user who wrote to Alex, "It's their car," disappeared even earlier. His account was deleted around the same time as Alex's. No trace of him. This is what is known about this place. This is not a theory, not an interpretation. This is what can be established from surviving screenshots, forum participants' testimony, and the little that can be verified. But there's something else. When talking about surveillance, in any context, real or perceived, it's common to look for a pattern. Not an isolated fact, but a system. Alex described the Suburban in several places over several days. Any rational person would initially assume it's a coincidence. Black SUVs are not uncommon in California, and San Bernardino is a dense enough city that the same car could appear at different points along the route. That makes sense. But there's one detail Alex mentioned in passing that's easy to miss. He wrote that one day, while returning from work, he noticed his GPS was behaving strangely. Google Maps rerouted the route 3 times for no apparent reason, suggesting detours through dead-end streets, and once, for about 40 seconds, showed his car driving through an empty field where there was a perfectly real road. He decided the GPS was faulty. He turned off the navigator and drove from memory. When he reached North Arrowhead Avenue, the Suburban was parked right in front of the entrance. Alex wrote, "It was there before I got there. I saw him standing there when I first turned onto the street." User DataDrift, who read this excerpt, wrote a short comment. "The navigator is malfunctioning. It's the phone control. The car is already there. That's because they don't need to go pick you up. They need to know when you'll be back home." It's impossible to either deny or confirm this. Alex didn't respond to this comment at the time. Maybe you haven't read it yet. Black SUVs are, of course, an archetypal image in American conspiracy culture. Men in black, black helicopters, faceless cars near the house. All this is part of the mythology created by books, films, real and fictional stories. Any skeptic will immediately say, when a person begins to believe that he is being followed, he begins to notice black cars where he did not notice them before. This is a classic example of apophenia, the human brain's tendency to see patterns where none exist. It's true, it's possible, but here's what doesn't fit. Several forum users, those who interacted with Alex the longest, unanimously described him as skeptical by nature. He repeatedly made fun of conspiracy theorists. Several times in tech subreddits, I have ridiculed people who believe in surveillance through household devices. In one of his early comments to his own post about UFOs, he wrote, "I don't want to believe it myself, and I don't. I just can't explain what's on the recording." This is not the profile of a paranoid person. This is a profile of someone who has encountered something specific and is trying to describe it concretely, unsure how to interpret it. However, psychological profiles are not evidence. Let's move on to what is. One of the most intriguing aspects of this story is the speed and systematic nature of the content removal. The video had been publicly available for several days. During this time, it has been downloaded by hundreds, if not thousands, of users. Copies have spread across numerous platforms. However, something happened that no one expected. Not all copies disappeared. All copies in usable quality disappeared. This is a crucial difference, and it's easy to miss. There are still recordings of a completely different kind on the internet, and they still occasionally surface. Screen adaptations, filmed on a phone from a computer or TV screen. Pixelated, with ambient light bleed, with a shaky hand, with overlaid room sound. Nothing can be proven or disproved from such materials. They exist, but as an artifact, discredited by its very quality. One of the discussion participants, who introduced himself as a digital archiving specialist, wrote that this is precisely the sign of professional cleaning. It's impossible to completely remove viral content. Anyone who has worked with internet archives knows this. But it's possible to ensure that no file suitable for analysis remains publicly accessible. The original hash is blocked on major platforms. The original file from Google Drive, the link died after 2 days. What's left? Garbage. Screenshot from across the room. He added that this is precisely what controlled discrediting looks like, not random deletion. Information isn't destroyed, it's rendered useless. This approach doesn't require miracles of technological omnipotence. It requires targeted intervention at a few key storage points and patience while the internet itself does the rest. That's not an explanation. It's a question. There's one more person who's little mentioned in this story. In most retellings, he's simply called a friend, the one Alex first showed the video to. Several forum members tried to find him. They knew little. He lives near North Arrowhead Avenue, collects board games, and has known Alex for a long time. One user, let's call him Orion Dust, because that's the name he used to publish his investigations, found a supposed friend after a few steps on social media. He messaged him directly. His friend responded. Orion Dust published a summary of the conversation. His friend confirmed seeing the recording, confirmed that it was something strange, and that he couldn't explain the object's shape. And then, according to Orion Dust, the conversation abruptly ended. The friend wrote, "I don't want to get into it. It's none of my business." And he stopped responding. Orion Dust wrote about this. He was scared. I don't know why, but he was scared. It was very noticeable even in the text. This is indirect evidence. One person interprets another's reaction based on a text message, nothing specific. But taken together with everything else, this detail fits into the overall picture. Now about the video itself, about what was on it. Screenshots have survived, a few shots that users managed to take before the video disappeared. The quality of the screenshots varies. Some were taken from phone screens in poor lighting, others are clearer. They show approximately the following frame. A dark night sky, completely covered with clouds. Glare from the city lighting from below gives the clouds a yellowish tint. On the left side of the frame is the corner of a roof, possibly of a neighboring building. To the right and above are tree branches swaying in the wind. A thunderstorm. At the moment of the lightning flash, which goes not vertically but horizontally, which is typical for powerful electrical discharges in mountainous areas, an object is visible in the screenshot. It's located in the upper third of the frame, slightly to the right of center. In low-quality screenshots, it's just a light, irregularly shaped spot. The clearer images reveal the shape, truly disc-shaped, with a thickening in the center and almost perfectly symmetrical edges. No antennae, no lights, no protruding parts. The object is illuminated only by a flash of lightning. It has no intrinsic glow, or none is captured in the screenshot. Screenshots are not videos. Analyzing them is much more difficult, but several people who publicly analyzed these images came to one conclusion. If this is a montage, then it is very professional. If it's a natural artifact, it requires a very specific combination of conditions. If it's a real object, the only question is what exactly it is. None of the screenshots are sufficient proof. Everyone understands that. But the video, the very video that verification experts deemed authentic, is no longer available. And screenshots remain all that remains of it. To properly understand the scale of what happened, it's necessary to dwell on a few facts about the nature of surveillance and how it's usually conducted. The United States has a complex system of agencies responsible for monitoring security threats and counterintelligence. Some operate openly, while others operate under varying degrees of secrecy. Among the documented practices is monitoring social networks for potentially significant publications. This was done especially actively after the adoption of a number of legislative acts that expanded the powers of intelligence agencies in the area of digital surveillance. The publication of video footage that could be interpreted as evidence of the presence of unknown aircraft over a specific geographic area could, in theory, attract the attention of airspace and airspace protection agencies. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's administrative logic. The question is, what kind of attention and what kind of reaction? Maintaining neutral observation is a standard tactic. It doesn't require arrest or direct contact. It creates pressure through presence. The person begins to realize they're being watched. They change their behavior. Perhaps they decide to remain silent. It's called passive deterrence, and it leaves no trace, no police reports, no court decisions, no official documents. Just a car at the curb. Just silence. Just disappearing. On January 13th, 2026, about a day after the account disappeared, several forum members filed complaints with the San Bernardino police. Not a missing person report, That requires someone close to the person. Just asking if there have been any recorded calls involving the resident at the address on North Arrowhead Avenue. None of these requests received a substantive response. The standard wording: information about citizens is confidential, except in cases of officially declared wanted persons. There was no official search. Several people tried to find Alex through LinkedIn, a profile of a system administrator at a logistics company in San Bernardino. The profile did exist, last updated November 2025. No sign of activity since. They also tried to contact the company where he worked. Orion Dust wrote that he called there under the pretext of a technical question and asked if it was possible to contact their system administrator named Alex. They told him that no such employee worked for the company. Then they added, and never worked for the company. Then they hung up. This is not a verifiable fact. This is one person's testimony about a phone conversation. Maybe he was with the wrong company. Maybe Alex didn't work for that company. Maybe they just didn't want to talk. But Orion Dust insisted the company was legitimate. He'd found it just a few steps away from the publicly available information Alex himself had left behind. From there, the trail goes cold. The confession message, posted by the reverted account, was analyzed by several individuals with experience in linguistic verification and forensic language analysis. One of them published a short but accurate observation. He wrote that he had studied all of Alex's public texts, posts, comments, and private messages, which several users had provided with the permission of those who had saved them. He identified several consistent patterns characteristic of Alex's writing. Firstly, specific abbreviations and colloquial constructions that he used regularly. What? Well, like, I don't know, that's it, at the beginning of a phrase. Secondly, the structure of the sentences is short, often unfinished, with ellipses inside, not at the end. Thirdly, his manner of ironizing himself. He never spoke about himself seriously, always adding a self-ironic comment. Fourthly, he never used the word therefore and its synonyms, constructions like thus, from the above. To summarize, were completely alien to him. In the message with the confession, the word thus appears 3 times. The word therefore appears once. Not a single abbreviation, not a single ironic remark. Complete, correctly constructed sentences. 160. This isn't him, the linguist wrote. This is either a translation from another language or a text written by someone else, perhaps from a template or dictated. This is not a forensic examination, but this observation is hard to ignore. There are several rational explanations that skeptics most often offer when they hear this story. They need to be examined honestly. First, Alex deliberately fabricated the entire story, the video, the surveillance, the disappearance, for attention and virality. It's possible, some people do it, but several facts count against this theory. Alex ran his account for 7 years without such attempts to attract attention. Technical conclusions about the video's authenticity were made independently of him. He had no control over them. His style of communication on the forum, lively, consistent, without traces of prepared remarks, does not correspond to the behavior of a person acting out a performance. Second, the video is indeed an optical artifact, a specific interplay of lighting and sensor noise at the moment of the lightning flash. This is technically possible. Phone cameras create artifacts under extreme lighting conditions. However, content verification specialists who examined the video said the exact opposite. No signs of artifacts were found, and these specialists worked independently and were not interested in a specific conclusion. Third, Alex simply grew tired of the attention, feared the consequences of publicity, and disappeared voluntarily, then wrote a confession to close the matter. This is a psychologically understandable theory. People break under the pressure of publicity. But then why bring back an account with a single message and then go silent again forever? Why not answer a single question that only the real Alex could know? If a person returns to close the subject, they should be able to confirm their identity. Neither version completely closes the story. Each explains one part and leaves another open. In February 2026, about a month after Alex's disappearance, one of the regular forum participants, a user with the nickname Crestline Observer, posted a short message. He wrote that he lived in Crestline, a small mountain village about 30 kilometers north of San Bernardino in the San Bernardino Mountains. He wrote that on the same November night, when Alex was filming a thunderstorm from his balcony, he himself saw something interesting in the sky above the mountain range. He described it this way: "I saw something moving above the clouds. Not an airplane. Airplanes fly here regularly. I know what they look like at night. It wasn't a helicopter. It was a silent object. And it's quiet here, so a helicopter would have been audible. It was just something moving." I didn't pay any attention to it until I saw Alex's video. He added that he didn't take any pictures, he just watched. He said he couldn't describe the shape more accurately because he saw the object between the clouds in a split-second gap. He also said he doubted whether it was worth writing about at all. This message went largely unnoticed. It appeared late, when the main discussion had already died down. Crestline Observer didn't post in the thread again after that. If this is true, it means that the object above the mountains was seen by at least 2 people that night, from different points, with a distance of about 30 kilometers between them. This is not proof. It's just another fragment. There's a question that's been raised less often in this story than it should be. It's not about what Alex filmed. It's about why this particular video caused such a reaction, if there was a reaction at all. Hundreds of people post videos of supposed UFO sightings every year. Most of them remain publicly accessible indefinitely. No one deletes them. No black Suburban shows up at their entrance. Why was this video different? There are several theories. The first is that it's a matter of geography. The area north of San Bernardino is a mountainous area containing several infrastructure facilities that are shown generically on maps. There is nothing publicly confirmed, but geographically, it is an area between several military and federal zones. If there really is something going on in this area that shouldn't be captured on video, the reaction to the release of the recording would be logical. Second version. The issue is not in the content of the video, but in the verifier's conclusion. The very fact that experts publicly confirmed the authenticity of the recording is another level of threat to any narrative about unidentified objects. Unverified videos are easily discredited. Verified videos are much more complicated. If such a video begins to be widely distributed with technical support for its authenticity, it creates a completely different public issue. The third version. The connection between the video and a specific place, a specific time, specific weather conditions pointed to something specific that is known only to those who already know what is happening here. And for these people, or for this system, Alex's post became a signal demanding a response. Neither version can be confirmed or refuted. Because there is no official case, no official response, and no public acknowledgement whatsoever that what happened to Alex is known to anyone other than the forum participants. Officially, this case doesn't exist. This in itself requires some thought. It doesn't exist not because the story is fictitious. It doesn't exist because no agency has confirmed a single fact from it. San Bernardino police have never registered any missing persons reports for Alex Brener. There is no wanted person with this name in public databases. The FBI has not commented. Reddit has not officially responded to questions about the reasons for the account deletion, which, incidentally, is in line with their standard policy. There is no official reality. There is only unofficial information. Screenshots from the phones of several dozen people who happen to be in this thread at the right time. There are a few details that are least talked about, but which remain the most disturbing. First, Alex mentioned taking a photo of the Suburban on his phone one day. This photo or video hasn't appeared anywhere. Perhaps he didn't have time to publish them. Perhaps he deleted them himself. Perhaps they were deleted along with everything else. Second, who is Federal Ghost 1988, and how did he know about the nature of this machine? If he was just joking or bluffing, why did he delete his account at the same time as Alex's disappearance? If he was indeed involved in the situation, then from what angle? Third, the confession message contained one paragraph that almost everyone who quoted it skipped. It stated, "I appreciate the interest the community has shown in this topic. This story is not a true story. and should not be taken as evidence of anything. Several people have noted the phrase, should not be taken as evidence of anything. Not is not evidence, but should not be taken as evidence. These are different statements. The first is a denial of fact. The second is an instruction on perception. Is this accidental? Perhaps, but in a text that is written too correctly and too impersonally, such a phrase comes across as a slip of the tongue. In March 2026, one of the forum participants, she hid her nickname, and in retellings she is usually called simply the woman from Riverside, wrote a long message about trying to find Alex Brener on her own. She doesn't write how, she only writes the result. The address on North Arrowhead Avenue was listed as residential, but in the name of someone else. The car, a blue Honda Civic whose details matched Alex's description, was registered in the DMV database under the name Alejandro Brener. This isn't a contradiction. Alex could easily have been short for Alejandro. But then begins what she called the real anomaly. The social security number she was able to establish through several indirect steps, which matched the information of Alejandro Brener of San Bernardino, was listed in the federal database for someone else. Different name, different state, Oregon, Portland. And this person, by all available evidence, was alive, paid taxes, and led a completely normal existence, not a namesake. Same number. She wrote, "This isn't just a missing database update. This is a substitution. His data exists, but it belongs to someone else." This isn't a trivial technical error. The social security number is the basis for identifying a person in the American system. Coincidences do happen, but they are recorded and corrected. It seems no one was in a hurry to correct it here. San Bernardino at night isn't the city you see in the tourist guides. It's the industrial hub of the Inland Empire, as this part of Southern California is known. The mountains beyond the city are illuminated from below by the city lights, and at night, the clouds above them take on a yellowish-orange sheen. Thunderstorms are rare here in November, but when they come in earnest. Electrical discharges over the mountain range are a sight that local residents remember. On one of those November nights, in the dark sky above the mountains, a man named Alex Brener filmed something on his phone. He wasn't trying to prove anything. He just wanted a beautiful video of lightning. What happened next is known from screenshots. What really happened, no one knows. Members of that forum still return to this topic. Not often. A few times a month, someone will write a short message. No news. Alex still hasn't shown up. We're still looking. Some post screenshots, the very ones they have left. Some try to find the video again, systematically, with various search tools. Nothing. Orion Dust, the one doing the most investigating, wrote in early March, "I don't know if Alex is alive. I don't know if he was in danger. I only know that the person I've been corresponding with for weeks has vanished from the internet, as if they'd been cut out with scissors. And the person writing from their account isn't them. I'm as sure of this as I am that I know my friend's handwriting." Officially, the case doesn't exist. Officially, Alex Brener hasn't disappeared. Officially, the video was an optical artifact, and the whole story was an experiment on the internet audience. Officially. But what doesn't exist officially is an explanation as to why all the mirrors of the video were removed before the confession appeared. Why delete evidence of an experiment before declaring it was an experiment? Why remove what was supposed to confirm, yes, it was a fake, see for yourself? Confession does not answer this question. No one answers. In the end, Alex Brener's story comes down to a few simple facts that can either be accepted or explained away, but it is impossible to do both at the same time. Fact 1. A person published a video that was recognized as authentic by digital verification specialists. Fact 2. The video disappeared from all available sources faster than would normally happen. Fact 3. The author of the video described the systematic presence of the same car at several points along his route, and on the day his navigator began to behave abnormally, the car was already waiting for him at the entrance. Fact 4. The video's author disappeared from the internet at the same time as the video's mirror sites. Fact 5. The account returned and wrote a confession in a language that everyone who knew it recognized as foreign. Fact 6. There was no answer to the confirmation questions, which only the true account owner could know. 6 facts. Each one is explained separately. Taken together, they create a picture that's harder to explain than to simply accept. No one knows where Alex Brener is now. No one knows if he's alive or safe, whether he wants to be found, or whether his presence in this story was the price for something we can only guess about. No one knows either. His Honda Civic, blue, 2019, might still be parked somewhere. Or not. His apartment on North Arrowhead Avenue might already be occupied by someone else. Or not. There are only screenshots. There are only the words of people who corresponded with him in December and January. There are only 11 seconds of video that no one can find. And there is a question that remains unanswered. What exactly was in that dark sky over the San Bernardino Mountains on that November night when the lightning struck? And why was it important to anyone that we not see it? What do you think about this?